Picture a wall of green. You are deep in the rainforest of Central America, hacking through vines and undergrowth so thick you can barely see 20 feet ahead. The air is hot and wet and loud with insects and the calls of unseen birds. There is no path. And then ahead of you, something stops you cold. A shape in the trees, too straight, too steep to be natural. You climb toward it, pulling away the roots and the moss, and you realize you are standing at the foot of a pyramid. A vast staircase of cut limestone, 60 meters tall, rising out of the jungle floor and disappearing up into the canopy. Carved faces of gods and kings stare out of the stone. And all around you, half buried under centuries of forest, are the bones of a city, temples, palaces, plazas, a whole metropolis, swallowed whole by the jungle and forgotten. This is what European explorers found. Again and again in the forests of Mexico and Guatemala, lost cities, the ruins of one of the most brilliant civilizations the ancient world ever produced. A people who read the stars, invented the concept of zero, built mountains of stone by hand, and ruled through god-kings, and who then, at the height of their glory, abandoned these magnificent cities to the rainforest, for reasons we are still arguing about today. This is the story of the Maya and the lost cities in the jungle. First, let us clear up the greatest misunderstanding about the Maya. They did not vanish. They are not a lost people. Right now, today, there are millions of Maya, speaking Mayan languages, farming the same maize their ancestors did, living across Guatemala, southern Mexico, Belize, and Honduras. The Maya are one of the great living civilizations of the world. What was lost, what the jungle swallowed, was something more specific and more haunting. The world of their great ancient cities and the dazzling classic civilization that built them. Because the Maya were never a single empire, like Rome or Egypt. They were a brilliant constellation of independent city-states, dozens of them, spread across the jungles and highlands of what we now call Mesoamerica. Each had its own king, its own rivalries and alliances, its own gods and monuments. And in their golden age, what archaeologists call the classic period, roughly between 250 and 900 AD, these cities produced a civilization of staggering sophistication, in writing, in mathematics, in astronomy, and in art, that rivaled anything in the ancient world. And they did it in one of the most challenging environments on Earth, the tropical rainforest. Consider what they built. Cities like Tikal, rising in the jungles of northern Guatemala, a metropolis of perhaps 60,000 people or more, with soaring pyramid temples that punched up through the rainforest canopy, their summits catching the sun above an endless sea of green. Cities like Calakmul, Tikal's great rival, like Palenque, with its exquisite carved palaces, like Copan with its staircase of glyphs, towering limestone pyramids, sprawling royal palaces, broad plazas, ball courts, raised stone causeways running between them, reservoirs to capture the rains. And here is the astonishing part. They built all of it without the things we usually think a civilization needs. They had no metal tools. They shaped that limestone with tools of stone. They had no draft animals, no horses, no oxen. And they did not use the wheel for work or transport. Every block of every pyramid was quarried, carved, and hauled into place by human muscle alone, organized by a society that could marshal thousands of workers and feed them from the jungle. These cities were not just settlements. They were sacred landscapes, deliberate diagrams of the cosmos in stone, with the pyramids as artificial mountains, gateways between the world of people and the world of the gods. And at the center of each city stood a king who was far more than a ruler. The Maya called their kings Kuhulajau, the holy lords. They were seen as divine, or near divine, the essential bridge between their people and the gods, responsible for the order of the cosmos itself. It was the king who performed the great rituals, who let his own blood in painful ceremonies of sacrifice to feed the gods, who ensured that the rains came, and the maize grew, and the world continued to turn. His power was sacred, and his person was sacred, and the kings made very sure that their deeds would be remembered. Across the plazas of every city, they raised carved stone monuments, stelae, portraits of themselves in full royal splendor, surrounded by inscriptions recording their names, their victories, their bloodlines, and the precise dates of everything they did. Beneath the king stood a whole society, noble families, scribes, priests, artisans, traders, and the vast majority, the farmers, whose maize fed it all. It was also a world of fierce rivalry. The great cities were not at peace. They fought, formed alliances, and betrayed one another. None more famously than the long, bitter struggle for supremacy between the two superpowers of the classic Maya world, Tikal and Calakmul, a rivalry that shaped the politics of the jungle for centuries. But what truly sets the Maya apart, what makes them unique among all the civilizations of the ancient Americas, is that they could write fully, completely anything they wished to say. The Maya developed the most sophisticated writing system ever created in the Americas, an intricate script of glyphs, beautiful little blocks of carved or painted symbols that could record their spoken language in full. History, poetry, myth, astronomy, the words of kings. It covered their monuments, their pottery, their temple walls. For centuries after the cities were found, nobody could read a word of it. The glyphs were a locked door, a whole civilization speaking to us and we could not understand. It was only across the 20th century, through the painstaking work of scholars, that the Maya script was finally cracked. And when it was, something extraordinary happened. The silent stones began to speak. Suddenly we could read the actual names of the kings, the dates of their births and wars and deaths, the histories of the cities in their own words. The Maya became one of the very few ancient American peoples whose own written history we can read. They wrote books too. Long screenfold manuscripts of bark paper, the codices. Tragically, when the Spanish came, missionaries burned almost all of them as works of the devil. Of the countless books the Maya once wrote, only a handful survived the flames. We lost a library of a civilization, and the Maya were obsessed with one thing above almost all others: time. They were extraordinary astronomers, watching the sky night after night, generation after generation. From their temple observatories, they tracked the movements of the sun, the moon, and especially the planet Venus, with remarkable accuracy. They could predict eclipses. They aligned their buildings to the heavens, so that on certain days the light would strike a temple exactly as intended, and to chart the vast cycles of time. They built calendars of breathtaking sophistication, interlocking cycles, and a great long count that ticked off the days across thousands of years. To do this mathematics, they needed something most ancient civilizations never developed: a symbol for nothing. The Maya independently invented the concept of zero, one of the most powerful ideas in all of human thought, and used it centuries before it reached medieval Europe. You may have heard that the Maya predicted the end of the world in the year 2012. They did not. What actually happened in 2012 was simply that one of their great calendar cycles, a Baktun, rolled over to the next, the way an odometer turns from one number to the next. It was not a prophecy of doom. It was a milestone in a calendar so vast and so precise that it humbles us even now. To walk into a Maya city was to walk into a living cosmology. In the heart of many cities stood a ball court, two long stone walls facing each other, where players struck a heavy rubber ball using their hips. In a game that was part sport and part sacred ritual, a reenactment of the cosmic struggle between life and death. Sometimes it is believed the stakes were as high as life itself. The Maya world was alive with gods. Chak, the great rain god, with his lightning axe. The maize god, dying and reborn with the cycle of the crop mirroring the Maya themselves. Beneath the earth lay Xibalba, the shadowy underworld, and the Maya believed the natural sinkholes of their landscape, the cenotes, deep pools of clear water in the limestone, were sacred portals to it. Those cenotes were also something more practical and more vital. In a land with few rivers, they were a precious source of water. And water, in the end, would prove to be the thing the whole civilization lived and died by. By around the 7th and 8th centuries, the classic Maya world was at its dazzling peak. Dozens of cities flourished across the lowlands, their populations swelling into the hundreds of thousands, and across the whole region into the millions. Kings raised ever grander temples and ever taller pyramids. Artists carved some of the most exquisite sculpture and painted some of the most beautiful pottery in the ancient world. Long-distance trade routes carried treasures across Mesoamerica: jade and obsidian, brilliant green quetzal feathers and cacao, the precious bean from which they made a bitter, sacred chocolate drink, and which they valued so highly. Sophisticated, intricate civilization at the very height of its powers, in cities that had stood for many centuries and must have seemed eternal. The kings raised their stelae and recorded the dates with serene confidence, certain that the next king, and the next, would do the same forever. And then in city after city, the dates stopped. In the 8th and 9th centuries, in the great southern heartland of the Maya world, something went profoundly wrong. The signs are eerily consistent from city to city. First, the great construction projects slow and then stop. No new temples, no new pyramids. Then the kings stop raising their stelae. The proud record of dates and deeds that had run unbroken for centuries simply ceases. The last monument is carved at one city, then another, each a little later, like lights going out across the jungle one by one. And then the people themselves begin to leave. The plazas fall silent. The palace is empty. The farmland is abandoned. Over the course of roughly 100 years, the entire heartland of classic Maya civilization, its greatest, most magnificent cities, was largely abandoned. Tikal, Calakmul, Palenque, Copan, the proud capitals of the jungle, were left to the forest. A civilization that had flourished for over 6 centuries let go of its grandest achievement and walked away. Why? This is one of the most debated questions in all of archaeology. And as with so many collapses, there is no single simple answer. But there are powerful suspects, and the evidence has been growing. The first, and perhaps the most compelling, is drought. Scientists studying the chemistry of ancient lakebeds and the slow growth of cave formations have found evidence that the Maya lowlands were struck, precisely during the centuries of the collapse, by a series of severe and prolonged droughts, some of the worst in thousands of years. For a civilization of millions, packed into cities in a region with few rivers, utterly dependent on seasonal rains to grow maize and to fill their reservoirs, a decades-long failure of the rains would have been catastrophic. But drought alone may not be the whole story. By their golden age, the Maya had also pushed their environment to its limits, clearing vast areas of forest, farming the land intensively to feed enormous populations, exhausting the thin tropical soils. A civilization already straining against its own success would have had little margin to survive a crisis. And there was war. The evidence suggests that in the final centuries, warfare between the city-states grew more frequent and more destructive, as rival kings fought over shrinking resources. Perhaps most poignant of all is what may have happened to the kings. The whole authority of the holy lords rested on a sacred promise that they, through their rituals and their sacrifices, kept the cosmos in order and the rains coming. But what happens to a god king when the rains do not come? When, year after year, the maize withers and the people starve despite every ritual? It may be that the people simply lost their faith in the kings and in the entire sacred system that had ruled them for 1,000 years. And when they lost that faith, they walked away from the cities that system had built. The likeliest answer is that it was all of these at once: drought, environmental exhaustion, war, and the collapse of belief, feeding on one another until the whole magnificent structure came apart. But here is the crucial thing, the thing so often forgotten. This was not the end of the Maya. It is vital to understand exactly what collapsed. It was the great cities of the southern lowlands and the institution of the divine king that fell. It was not the Maya people, and it was not Maya civilization as a whole. Even as the southern cities emptied, the Maya world shifted and carried on. To the north, in the Yucatan, great cities rose and flourished in the centuries that followed. Places like the famous Chichen Itza, with its iconic stepped pyramid. And when the Spanish conquistadors finally arrived in the 16th century, they did not find an empty land of ruins. They found millions of Maya people living in thriving communities who resisted the conquest fiercely. and for a very long time, and the Maya are still here. They endured the conquest, the centuries that followed, and everything since. Today, millions of Maya people live across Central America, speaking some 30 Mayan languages, still growing maize, still keeping pieces of the old knowledge alive. The lost cities in the jungle are not the graves of a dead people. They are the abandoned monuments of the ancestors of a living one. Still, those great classic cities, Tikal, Palenque, Copan, were left to the rainforest. And the rainforest is patient. Over the centuries, the jungle reclaimed them completely. Roots cracked the staircases. Vines wrapped the temples. The soil and the green swallowed whole pyramids until they looked like nothing more than steep wooded hills. Local people always knew the ruins were there, but to the wider world, the cities were lost. Rumors of stone monuments hidden in the forests of a far-off land. Then in 1839, an American traveler named John Lloyd Stephens and a brilliant English artist named Frederick Catherwood set out into the jungles of Central America to find out if the rumors were true. Hacking through the forest, they found city after lost city, Copan, Palenque, and more. And Catherwood, working in the heat and the gloom and the swarming insects, drew them. His extraordinarily precise, beautiful drawings of the temples and the carved monuments astonished the world when they were published. Here at last was the proof. A lost civilization of breathtaking artistry and sophistication had risen and fallen in the jungles of the Americas, and almost no one had known. The world has been uncovering the Maya ever since. Today, you can stand on the summit of a pyramid at Tikal and look out over the rainforest and see the tops of other temples rising in the distance through the morning mist, just as a Maya king once did more than 1,000 years ago, and we are still finding more. In recent years, archaeologists flying lasers over the jungle canopy have peered through the trees to the ground beneath and discovered that the forest hides far, far more than we ever imagined. Tens of thousands of unmapped structures, causeways and fields, whole cities still sleeping under the green. The Maya world was even greater than we knew. Stand in that silence among the ruins, and the deeper story settles over you. A people of astonishing brilliance who charted the heavens and invented zero and built mountains of stone in an unforgiving jungle, who ruled through god-kings and recorded their glory in a language of beautiful glyphs, grew too vast for the land that fed them, and when the rains failed and the kings could not save them, they let their greatest cities go, and the jungle closed over them. The Maya themselves endured, and endure still, but their lost cities remain one of the most haunting monuments on earth to a truth that every great civilization, in the end, must face, that no achievement is so dazzling, no city so eternal, no power so divine, that it cannot be reclaimed by time and the patient